It's been a seller's market in the automobile world throughout 2022, with high prices on used cars and even higher prices on new ones. But the tide is finally turning, and a few months from now, it might actually be a good time to buy a car again. In this video, we'll talk about what the current state of the market is, what to expect, and how the slowdown in sales will benefit you. First, one bearer of good news was Cox Automotive. The company, which provides a variety of car services, reported in September that August saw a big decline in car sales. Used car sales were down by nearly 3.1 million units, which wasn't just way lower than July, but 11.4% lower than August of last year. Cox's seasonally adjusted annual rate is about 36.2 million, which is lower than the 40.8 million rates from August. Based on the trends, they anticipate that the total volume of used car sales at the end of the year will be over 12% down from the sales in 2021. As a result of the reduced sales, there are more used cars available on the market now than there were in August of 2021, 31% more. In fact, the current supply of used cars is the highest that Cox Automotive has recorded since last June. That being said, the market is still way thinner than historical levels. New car production hasn't caught up to even the currently reduced demand of the market. It wasn't all good news, though, as prices are still inflated. The average transaction price of a new car in August was up 0.5% from July, and 10.8% higher than in August of 2021. They expect the drop in price to be slow but steady. Going off what Cox reported, here's our outlook on the market. There are basically two main drivers of what people are now calling the used car bubble. During the pandemic, a few things happened. Interruptions in car production cut the availability of new cars, and thanks to lockdowns and the government stimulus checks, people were able to come out of their quarantines with more money in their pockets. Now, those were both 2 years ago, and a lot has changed since then. The production capabilities of the automobile industry are recovering, with their only major challenge being the ongoing chip shortage. Meanwhile, the country is going through an inflation crisis right now, with prices of everything from food to gas being way up. In response to inflation, the Federal Reserve has cranked up interest rates, making financing way more expensive. Thanks to all these factors, we're pretty confident that car prices are going to drop further and further to settle at or slightly above pre-pandemic normals. If you're thinking of buying a car right now, we'd advise you to hold off until the end of this year or early next year. While we're at it, we're also going to advise you to keep watching this video, where we're going to talk about how the slowdown in car sales will benefit you. Now, the obvious starting point is that you can actually buy the car you want. No more settling for a car that isn't a brand you like or is older than you're comfortable with. When you're going to make such a massive purchase, you want to make sure that you're totally satisfied with it, which wasn't always possible for the most of 2022. People who desperately needed a car made the compromise that best suited them. But if waiting is an option for you, you'll be happier in the long run. On a similar note, you should soon be able to buy cars of age or condition that you can actually swing. Depreciation has still been affecting some cars. It's just those that were at minimum 8 years old. But no sensible person would ever suggest you buy a car that old for a variety of reasons, unless you really needed a car post-haste. You know, buying a car wasn't supposed to be so difficult, and soon, it won't be. Next, you'll be able to find the car at a price you're comfortable with. Buying from dealers in 2022 has been a real nightmare because they're fully aware of how hot their stock is right now. No one should ever have to buy a Honda Civic at any markup, let alone some of the markups that dealers have been pushing throughout the year. But with more cars ending up in dealer lots or going through private sales, the markup craziness should stop soon. In fact, let us introduce you to a nifty website called Markups.org. This is a community-developed and crowdsourced website that tracks dealers across America and the cars they have in stock. It lets you compare the dealer's price to the suggested retail price of the car. So basically, you can look up a dealer before visiting them to see just how much they've marked up the car. Here's an example. Penske Honda Ontario, located in California, has marked up the 2022 Honda Civic by $13,555. This kind of thing is exactly why the bubble needs to pop. Knowledge is power, and knowing what you want and how much you're willing to pay for it are crucial in order to walk away from the negotiation as the winner, so to speak. Speaking of negotiations, those will be way easier going forward. No one buys a car at the listed price, right? Whether you're buying from a dealer or a private owner, you've got to try your hand at negotiation to see how low you can bring down the price. But in a seller's market, like the one we've been having, the seller has the upper hand. They're not motivated to meet you at your level because they know that someone else will eventually come along and meet them at theirs. As car prices decline, though, sellers will find it harder to get rid of their cars at an inflated value. That means even if the listed price is unusually high, you'll have some standing room to talk them down to a more reasonable price. And if you've happened to stumble upon a very stubborn seller, someone will give you the price you want, so you don't need to worry. All that being said, you should keep your head on a swivel. With the decrease in car prices, volatility can go up as well. You're not off the hook for doing research on your cars just yet. In fact, to make the most of the advantage you have as a buyer, you pretty much have to outsmart the seller with facts. Make sure you know the ins and outs of the car you're looking to buy, down to the model year and its quirks. Learn about the most common issues that tend to pop up in your car of choice and ask a lot of questions from the seller. Check for those issues yourself if possible. And always remember that some deals can be too good to be true. Don't sort from low to high and go for the cheapest option you can get, because you can bet that something will be wrong with that car. One example of this would be cars repossessed from folks who bought them on subprime loans. Analysts say that these cars are flooding the used markets right now, and they'll have gone through dozens of buyers before ending up in front of you. Moving on, keep in mind that the high interest rates don't just bring down prices. You'll have to contend with high interest rates on any financing schemes that'll be available to you, whether it's from your bank or your dealer. Since most people should buy cars through financing, do your homework on banks, dealers, and credit unions that offer good auto loans with low interest rates. Here as well, you'll want to watch out for deals that are too good to be true. Stay far away from companies that offer you high interest rates with few prerequisites, and read up on the organizations that you're considering going with. It's best to make sure that if you ever run into any problems with your lender, the customer service is good enough. Consider personal loans too, which are different in some ways from auto loans. You might be able to get a better rate or more favorable terms on a personal loan in some cases. Research, research, research. Finally, here are some other considerations if you decide to buy a car soon. The ongoing inflation situation doesn't show many signs of stopping. Industries around the world are still struggling with the after effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. Climate change is impacting agriculture and food production, and Russia is still refusing to back down from its invasion of Ukraine. So before you capitalize on a buyer's market, make sure you can actually afford to buy a car. Keep in mind also that gas is going to be expensive for a while too. When buying a car, try to go for one that's reasonably fuel efficient, or maybe opt for a plug-in hybrid and join the electric vehicle revolution. Spare parts availability is a bit scarce too, so the more reliable a car is, the better. Last but not least, enjoy your purchase. Whatever it ends up being, buying a car is a great feeling, so savor it. That's it for today's video. Share your outlooks on the car market in the comments section below. And for any prospective buyers watching, drop in some top tips for purchasing cars. But whatever you do, don't drive off without liking, sharing, and commenting. Goodbye.